Alright guys, how's it going? Angus here from Makers Muse, and this should be working again. As with all streams, I never have any idea. I'm going to pop the chat out and see if I can keep an eye on it. Hey, how's it going, Sacred Redstone? Welcome, Benjamin. So, in today's stream, I was just basically working on tuning 3D printers, and I figured it's a Saturday and I do a YouTube channel. Why not just do it live with you guys so we can chat and talk about fixing and fine-tuning 3D printers and try to help each other out? Because basically, as you would have noticed over the last few weeks, actually before I went to the States, I was pretty bogged down with printer reviews and that sort of thing. And the machines I have behind me, I have the Flux Delta Plus, and here is the Raise Cube R3. So basically two very different machines. The Flux Delta Plus is a ready to run, beautiful looking machine that comes working out of the box, and the Raise Cube is a kit that comes pretty much like the ANET A8, just flat packed acrylic panels, and you put it together completely from scratch. So essentially what I've been working on is making these printers print better. So if you want to see my review of the Flux Delta Plus, I'll be honest guys, I was pretty disappointed with the stock performance of that machine. And yes, I have absolutely been reading through all the forum threads and the Facebook discussions as to that review. I totally get it. It was a very rushed review because I had to get out to the States. So normally I would spend the time to fine tune settings, which is kind of what I'm doing today. So what I'm doing right now is withdrawing some filament. So the biggest issue I had initially with the Flux Delta Plus was the filament provided wasn't that great. So I tested everything stock settings, stock filament, and the results were fairly subpar. So it turns out that the manufacturer said that first batch of filament wasn't that great. So the first thing I'm doing is swapping the filament. Right. But the problem is, nothing fits in the top of it, so I'm using this tube to help guide it in from the side here. And I'll come read the chat in a second. Matteo is asking, do I prefer the Delta type? So I don't prefer either. Each has their advantage and disadvantages. Deltas tend to be a lot faster in terms of their printing capabilities, but they're also more limited in terms of their XY coordinates and bed size in terms of what you can print. Right, so I'm going to run this through here. I did have a squiz online, and there is actually some like prints you can do to print a spool holder on the side of this, but I'm just going to do it like this for now. Yeah, print a feeding tube, that's the one. I've got to say, it is difficult to feed through sometimes. Even when you push the lever down all the way, it just doesn't want to let me through. Off to a great start as usual. Bedhead Angus, yeah, I always have hair like this. Although I haven't had hair this long for a long time. That's not going through. Fantastic. I'm just going to cut it a little bit shorter and see what I can do. So just a trick as well, you want to cut it into a point to get it feeding through easier. Future Maniacs, will I be making a video on the Form 2 SLA? Yes, I will, absolutely. I have several SLAs to test, including the Duplicator 7, all of which will be tested soon. That is not going in. Alright, well what I'm just going to do is just put the top part in and then tell Flux Studio to load it through. Load. Alright, let's see what that does. It's catching on something, which is a little bit annoying. We'll let it warm up again. Because the Flux Delta is a Bode style extruder, so the motor at the top is at the top where the extruder pushes the filament through that tube into the hot end. But it's getting stuck on something at that motor. I don't know. Classic Makers Muse stream. Philozuski is asking, is it a good idea to back the Obsidian on Kickstarter? Alright, so there is a lot of cheap 3D printers that are going to hit Kickstarter soon. Take my word for it, there's a lot coming. It's exciting, but also it's Kickstarter. So some of them may fail, some of them may be terrible, some of them may be fantastic. It's literally gambling. There's no guarantee. So the Obsidian team are the same guys who are behind the Trinus. So they do have a good track record of delivering. Trinuses were delivered. So that's absolutely a good thing to, it's in their favor. But it's going to be a cheap machine. Don't expect the world from a cheap $99 printer. From what I understand, that's their baseline. Then there's going to actually be about $250 for actually a machine with a screen, for example. Alright, they're just going to pop the chat out so I can see it a bit easier. There we go. Maybe I think it tried to calibrate and it touched the tube. My bad. Poor machine. I gotta say, the Flux Studio software has been really iffy on me. I installed the latest version and it doesn't even recognize the printer, so I had to go back to the old version. Future Maniacs was my favorite printer. I don't have a favorite printer. Every machine for every job, basically. If it's a small machine that printing small things, then that's awesome. But yeah, sometimes you want to print big stuff, then that's awesome too. Okay, let's try that again. Load filament. Next. Okay, that's better. I do like that the Flux can recognize if something's obstructing its movement. That's very cool. Okay, so while it's doing its thing, I'm going to... Oh, well, I've already done it. So the raised cube, I'm currently printing... That's not good. There we go. Spool management just seems to be a non-existent concern for all of these new machines. Like, that's the spool holder. It didn't come with PTFE or anything. Anyway, the raised cube is currently printing a modified version of the torture test, which just has like a single cube. And I'm trying to dial in the retraction and trying to stop it stringing, because essentially this is my first test. It broke it and it's stringing, which is awful. So that was just on default out of Slicer. I think that the machine, although it has 2 fans, they're not spinning very fast. So I think they're just very bad low quality, low power fans. And it's not cooling it very well. So I tried a different filament. This is a recycled recycled PLA. And again, blobbing and stringing. So what I've done now is I'm running Polyalchemy Elixir PLA, which is much better at reducing stringing. And basically I reduced my extrusion multiplier to 0.95. And I'm going to see if that stops any stringing. Santo's asking, any recommendations for bed material for my next 1x1x2 meter volume printer? That is humongo. In terms of a bed material, you want something that's easy to release. So, I mean, is that a heated bed? If so, you could use Garolite fiberglass. That sticks nicely when it's hot. If not, then yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to release it. Something that's got a bit of give to it. Glass would shatter, absolutely. I wouldn't want to print on a glass of that size. I'd go Garolite, to be honest. Even if you put like a mop of thin PVA and water, that would help parts stick down. Okay. Well, it looks like the Flux Delta's out of action. Nothing's going through the extruder, which may mean there's a little bit of filament stuck behind, which often happens on FDM printers. So, yeah. Yeah, that's not working. Great. Okay, no worries. I'm going to have to open it up. I bet there's just a little bit of filament somewhere between the filament drive gear and the tube. I'll look at it in a second. Awesome. Awesome. So Matthew's saying, I love your Fusion 360 videos. CAD's something I'd really like to learn. Absolutely. I'm going to be doing a lot more CAD tutorials in future. It's what my passion is. I like doing that sort of thing. Just a sneak peek for you guys. I'm working on the next mechanisms from the Industrial Revolution video. That was technically not from the Industrial Revolution, but close. See if any of you guys know what that is. There's going to be a whole video on that coming soon. Graham is asking, should I buy the Makers Select Plus 3D printer for a first printer? So basically that would be the Wanhao i3 Plus, I believe. And yes, it's a great printer. Aldi just had them recently and they're decent. They're not fantastic, but for the price, you can't really go wrong. And also you can upgrade them quite a lot. Right, so I'm just going to have a quick squiz to see if I can find anything that PTFE tube. Told you there'd be a little bit of filament stuck. That always happens. So when you withdraw filament, sometimes that occurs, where there'll be a little dag left behind. You can see how like stringy it is coming out, and that's what was stopping it to extrude. There you go. Learned something. I learned something too. Yeah, I'll feed this back in. Okay, let's try that again. Get my tube. Monster Imports for the win. They're on special. I tend to buy my energy drinks depending on what's on special. Can I travel to Eastern America? I really want to meet you, but can't travel to the West. I'm planning to go to New York. That's probably the next closest I'll be, but yeah, sorry, not really. Being in Australia, it's hard to get anywhere else. So New York's probably the best I can do in any time soon. There we go, that's more like it. Alright. That's better. So we'll do scene. If anything, these streams should show you guys that I'm just like you and machines break all the freaking time. No matter how pretty they look. So, should make you feel a little bit better when things break down. Alex, you're asking if I have the Cocoon Create Touch yet. I'm not getting a Cocoon Create Touch because I already have the i3 Plus, which is the same thing, and I've already reviewed it. And it's a good machine. Richard, is it a Geneva mechanism? Yes, dude, it is. So, this is known as a Geneva mechanism. It's one of my favorite mechanisms, actually. So, you know the sound of an old-fashioned film projector doing the clacking noise? It's like a classic sound. That's caused by this mechanism, and you'll see why they use it in the video that will be following. Ryan's saying on the i3 Plus, check out the Z-axis brace mods. Yes, that's a good option. The i3 Plus is more rigid than the original i3 V2, but the brace mods will help a bit. But I'll be honest, the sheet metal design is awesome. Like the JG Aurora, which I was going to also have in the stream, but it's no room for it. That frame was very weak for a sheet metal frame, whereas the i3 Plus is very rigid. I was very happy with the design. How long's the stream going for? I have no idea, man. Till you guys get bored of me. Jonathan, how much free time do you usually get not 3D printing? Not a huge amount these days, I'll be honest. I do music sometimes, which is why there's a keyboard here. I play games. I just downloaded Mirage Arcane Warfare last night because I like playing Chivalry, Medieval Warfare. And to my surprise, there was no one online in Australia at all. Australia-wide, no one on a server. So I'm probably going to refund that game. But I'm waiting for Mordhau that was on Kickstarter. That looks like an awesome medieval fighting game. That's the sort of thing I do in my spare time. And go for walks and go to the pub. Why wasn't the i3 Plus fantastic? What was the negative? I mean, nothing's perfect. The filament extrusion, like the actual extrusion head, isn't that great. It's just a standard Mark 10. You can get it better. And I thought the screen was a bit hard to use, being front-facing. And mine made a lot of noise, which I think they've improved on. Okay. We have life. The Delta is back in action. Okay. Okay, of course this tube is stupid. But at least it should help. Once it starts printing, it'll work. Once it starts printing, it'll tension itself. Okay. So I'm just going to print on the Flux Delta. If you like, I'll change over to that screen. 1 second. There you go. So this is Flux Studio. It's still 0.7.6. As I said at the start of the stream, I downloaded the newest version. It doesn't recognize the printer for some reason. The Delta Plus is called Mrs. Slum Queen. Thanks to Lady Muse. And I'm just going to grab a file. So let's grab this one. That's black for some reason. I just created this on the customizer because someone actually made a lattice cube customizer on Thingiverse. And I have no idea why it's black like that. But anyway, basically, the Flux team told me to go with Cura 2 because that was better. I am printing polyalchemy, so 215 is probably a good temperature. First layer 230. I might actually go 210. It's a little bit low for polyalchemy, but it should be a little bit better quality. Layer height 0.2 is fine. Infill. Yeah, it's not going to be infill. We don't want supports. Speed. Traveling at 100. I mean, the Delta can go faster, but I'm just being careful here. 20, 20, 40. And then 15. So that's quite reserved. That's not very fast. And they've locked away a lot of other things, which I don't really want to touch. Beyond... Yeah, I'm not going to even bother right now with that. I wouldn't mind changing retractions, but it looks like I have to do it through that interface, which I'm not going to do. Yeah, okay, that'll do. So it's running Cura 2 as a slicing engine. It slices it. I can have a preview. So that's what it's going to look like. Hopefully we don't get that sort of stringing, which is what I was getting before when I first tested it with their own filament. And let's try it. So 1 hour. So that's a pretty long print. We'll see how we go. Okay. There we go. Oh, I've missed some super chats. Sorry, guys. Matthew, thank you. Just wanted to say thanks to you and 3D Printing Nerd for getting me started with 3D printing in Fusion. Just got my first success. Thanks for your help. No worries, man. That's awesome to hear. I'm more than happy to do that. It's my passion to do CAD and mess around with 3D printers. And Cole, thank you. I just bought filament with 1.75 millimeter diameter with plus minus 0.1 millimeters. Is it going to be okay for my printer? Monoprice, Mega Select Plus, and ANET A8. Yes, I would say you're going to be fine. Those both have extruders with a spring-loaded arm, and the tensioning arm can adjust for variations. You should be fine. That should be no worries. It's a bit rough, and I would not recommend filament like that. But if it's cheap and it works, and you don't care about the parts, then by all means, do it. Maril saying Highway 5 misses me and Jatman. That was a fun stream, guys. Um, yeah, Luke just said inverted normals. Yeah, I think it actually might be Luke. Classic Thingiverse files. I think it actually may be inverted normals. Is that working? So what the Flux is doing now, the Delta Plus, is it's actually doing the bed leveling, which is really clever. It's one of the best bed leveling sequences I've actually seen. So that's just going around picking points. The bed isn't heated if you remember my review, so you're not going to be printing ABS, but that flexible plate sticks PLA down really well. Right. Cole's got 10 kilograms of filament. Give it a go, man. If it's like an A-net or Wanhao, you don't really care if it gets jammed. Snickers Bar 2 is asking a good question. What computer requirements do you need for slicers? Dude, you don't need much power at all. You can slice on a cheap Windows 10 tablet. It might take a bit longer, but I'll be honest, most slicers aren't even that optimized for 64-bit, or especially not for multi-core processors. So yeah, you can slice on anything. Absolutely. Yosef, thank you. Is it beer o'clock yet? Have one on me. It's almost 1 a.m. 1 p.m. But it's still energy drink time, I think. Me and Lady Musa went out to a very fancy restaurant last night, and we did not get home till quite late. Right. So the Race Cube R3 seems to be going pretty well. Let's have a quick look. Right, well, I kind of take that back. The first layer is pretty terrible. It's a manually leveled bed. I just moved the machine from somewhere else, so maybe the thing's out of skew. So it'll stick, but the base layer doesn't look that great. Luke is asking, is there a slicer on iPhone? The only slicer on iPhone I know would be the Up Studio app, which is designed for the Up 3D printers, and that is actually an app on your phone that does slice, which is pretty cool. But it has no preview mode, which I wish it did. Jason, thanks for the $5. My bed doesn't stop when it hits the Y. End stop just vibrates. Replace the end stop temporarily, please help. Marlin firmware Tivo Tarantula. That means your end stop is not triggering. I can't remember if the Tarantula has a normally opened or normally closed end stop. It might have either or, and your firmware may be waiting for the wrong one. On the board, there might be like an option, but basically, it sounds like either the switch is not working, there's a loose wire, or something is damaged on your board. Because if you've got it in the same place as all the other end stops should be, and it's not working, then something's gone wrong along that line somewhere. Get a multimeter. A multimeter is a good way of testing continuity. Unplug it from the board and just see when you press the switch, does it go from open to closed or closed to open, and see how that helps. I have noticed on some machines as well that sometimes the end stops don't even get hit. Sometimes they're like below the plate and the plate just goes above them. Just make sure, just press it yourself when it's doing homing and see what happens. But yeah, that's the problem with kits. You always have to fine tune and diagnose all those sort of little issues. Antonio, would I recommend the Wanhao Duplicator i3 Plus or Tivo Tarantula? I would say the i3 Plus all the way. Sheet metal frame, super rigid, works out of the box, and has lots of upgrades. If you can spring the extra $100 or $200. Chris, thanks for the $5. Thanks, man, for answering all the questions. Keep up the great work. Happy to help. Let's just check out the Flux Delta Plus. That's looking really good, actually. That first layer is mint. Jared, have I been to Vivid yet? I did visit it the other day. The Opera House stuff in Vivid is awesome. The rest is so-so. There's a robot event at Vivid soon, which I will be emceeing. That's in a week or two. So it's called Robo Wars Vivid. You should definitely check it out. It's going to be combat robots. Lego Craft Motion, can you use eSun PLA Plus on an A-net A8? Yep, I don't see why not. It's just PLA with the modifier. And Jiri is asking, can I print metallic film with the 0.2mm nozzle? If you mean metallic with actual metal particles, I would say no. You're very likely to get a jam. Other people may want to tune in, but also you need a hardened nozzle because it's going to eat through that 0.2 like no one's business. Catborg got a MakerBot the other day, returned it today. Oh man, yeah, that's my feeling with those sort of printers as well. I actually got a refund for mine as well. Alright. Yeah, Ryan is saying the multi-material mod is finally shipping for the Prusa i3. It is indeed. I actually got to meet Joseph Prusa, which was fantastic when I was at the Bay Area Maker Fair. And I got to say hi, and I said congrats that you're you're finally shipping the multi-material. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up on the chat, guys. I don't have Lady Muse. She's off in the wilds doing her thing currently. When do we get to see multiple colors on one extruder? From Chase. Again, the multi-color extruding is shipping. I haven't actually requested one from Joseph. He might send one if I wanted. I'm not a big fan of multi-color. I do practical things, and multi-color has always been a very aesthetic thing to me. But in terms of multi-extrusion for support material or different types of materials, that's more exciting to me. That's something I'd like to see. Right. So what we've got going is the Flux Delta Plus. And yeah, to show you what my previous test was, this was what I got last night. It's better than what I got in the review, but it's still not great. I think the cooling on the Delta Plus could be better, but also it looks like a little bit of over extrusion, which was why I wouldn't have minded tweaking the filament multiplier. But yeah, that's how it is. Sorry, trying to find some questions. Shivel wants a close-up of the first layer of the Delta. I'll try. Let's see how long this cable is. Come for an adventure. That's as far as I can get you. I don't know if that actually shows it. Yeah. Sorry. One of the things I need to do after this financial year is work out a proper stream setup with actual like HDMI cables to proper cameras and that sort of thing. It's just a whole nother world. And that way I can actually show you close-ups of things. But right now, this is the best I can do, unfortunately. Someone's asking if I tried the Duet Wi-Fi. No, I haven't. I have no idea what that is. Is it a printer? I haven't seen it. Jim, how do I fix a Bode bed on my Tivo Black Widow? A Bode bed means the manufacturer didn't pay any attention to quality control, so you should get back in touch with the manufacturer and say, hey, my bed's Bode, send me a bloody straight one. That's how you get to fix your Bode bed. Because no machine should ever ship with a Bode bed. Luke, so tuners in PRD tune and E-steps? No, not so much into the E-steps. I would hope that the Flux Delta Plus has good E-step tuning. I mean more just tune my extrusion multiplier. Although it would be worth checking to see if the E-steps match the filament extrusion. I would hope so. Again, I'm not sure. Looks like a pretty large hot end. Yeah, so it's an all-in-one cooling and hot end tool head. There's no extruder in it. The extruder's on the machine and it just feeds through a Bode tube. So it's got the cooling fans in it, which is why it's quite large, but also a lot of that's empty space. The Delta Plus is designed to take on different tool heads like a laser engraver, a little plotter, and a 3D scanning interface thing, which I'm yet to try, but Devin over at Make Anything did, and he wasn't wildly impressed with the results, let's just say that. Jeff, thanks for the $5, man. Have you heard anything about Eora 3D? They're really bad with communication, but I know they're based in Sydney. Yeah, I have not heard a single thing from them since I met them in August last year at the Sydney Mini Maker Fair. I was next to them, I had a stand next to them, they had various prototypes, beautiful looking machines. I haven't heard anything since. I mean, I was in email communication because I was like, look, guys, send me one, I'll do a review. But that was almost a year ago now. I honestly think they're suffering because laser scanners are kind of old hat now. Like, you can get cheap ones off GearBest and stuff that work. And I got the Bevel 3D recently, which is another laser-based interference scanner, which reads back the distortions from the laser. And it sucks. I mean, it's very basic. The quality's not good. Photogrammetry has come a long way, and it's actually more powerful now, in my opinion, than laser. So, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with them, but they've been very quiet. They certainly haven't been in touch with me. Arnoldo Alexius is asking, how do you know it's safe to leave a long print 5 hours plus to go and do something else? It's always a risk. So 3D prints do take a long time, and you need to have faith that your machine's not going to catch fire and it's going to keep working. So basically, you need to be running it for a lot of prints before I would even consider leaving it unattended. But here's the kicker, guys. A lot of machines coming out of China now, and other manufacturers, do not have a thermal runaway detection, which means that if your little thermistor comes loose, the machine will just keep trying to heat, and it will melt down and eventually catch fire, which we have seen pictures of many machines doing so. So keep that in mind. You don't want that to happen. I don't want anyone's house to catch fire from a 3D printer at all, because that's very bad for the industry, and I don't want anyone to get hurt. So make sure that's enabled in firmware, and test it before you ever consider leaving like a kit to be left alone to print. Modern Knife, favorite part of Perth. I did love Freo very much. That's where I used to work, and they've got lots of awesome craft beers at the pubs. So Freo was very nice. Oh, Regan, thanks for the $5. I met you at National Manufacturing Week. Was shy to show my fanboyism. Hope you keep expanding. Open a career opportunity for students in Oz, please. Dude, yes. I am in touch with the Wollongong Council to make like a makerspace or something here. I really want to do it. I obviously don't have the means or the funds to run a massive open space. It's going to cost too much. But if the council can get behind me, then I will absolutely provide the machines and the expertise. Unfortunately, as Australia tends to work, the hot thing right now is girls in STEM, which I have nothing against, but it means for me to get into that industry, it's a lot harder, and I'd have to pander to a lot of people to get, I suppose, government grants and funding. So I'm not pushing it too hard. I'm just saying, look, hey guys, I've got this stuff, let me know. I put a proposal through. We'll see what happens. Simon was asking, what did I do before YouTube? So I was an industrial designer. I still am. I was trained at UTS in Sydney, and then I worked at various industrial design firms as well as 3D printing studios. And I was one in Perth, which is why I started the YouTube channel, because people kept asking me, what do I think of this printer? So I made a video. And then I decided that studio sucked, and I quit. And then they shut down because I quit, because I pretty much ran everything. And then I just started doing the channel full time. Michael, can I do a review of the Creality CR10? My review would add very little in the amount of reviews already out there, so I would say go check out other people's reviews, such as Dustin the Japman and Press Reset Preston. He's also checked it out. Both very good reviews of the CR10. I'm not going to get one because I'm not going to be able to add anything extra to those good reviews. Joey, how much does the Delta Plus run? I assume you mean how much money does it cost? It was around 800 to 900 US, if I remember correctly. I do have a review part 1 on it, and this testing is kind of for my part 2 to make it kind of work at the price point it's put at, because when I did the review, it didn't, and I was very disappointed. Chris is saying weak stringy infill. If you're getting stringy weak infill, it means you're either moving too fast for your hot end to keep up, or your extrusion multiplier is too low, or your temperature's not high enough. One of those things. That would generally be a weak infill. Right. Let's have a quick squiz. Yeah, so far I would say that the Raise Cube R3 needs a new cooling system because I can already tell the undersides of these overhangs are really blobby. They shouldn't be as blobby as they are, which means cooling is a big issue. And the Delta Plus is still printing the base. It's probably going to do the base for the next half an hour. Lucky is asking best temperatures for printing polyalchemy elixir. I print mine at 210 to 215 degrees C, so you need a little bit higher than regular PLA. Simon, what does industrial design encompass? So I didn't even know industrial design was an actual career path when I was in high school, but basically industrial designs, you become like a broad master of various range of disciplines, from 3D modeling to concepts like sketching and concept development, to client interaction, learning to discern and decipher what the client actually wants into a concept, and basically being able to present well, because you need to show and sell your concepts. But it could be anything. I mean, you can be an industrial designer for, men's shaving equipment, for cars, for handbags. It all shifts. I mean, industrial design covers a lot of things that a graphic designer would do, an engineer would do, a fashion designer would do. It really can be pushed into anything. Also, electronics, you need a good idea of kind of, not so much on a component level, but how electronic components interact to design things like, the concept for a smartphone, for example. It's a really good course. And unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore at UTS. They turned it into integrated product design, which, what is that? That's not industrial design. Ian, thanks for keeping me entertained and distracted tonight. Have a monster on me. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I will definitely. Cold, have I messed with Folgertech or heard of them? I absolutely have heard of Folgertech. I've never put an FT5 together. I know Dustin, the Japman, is currently putting one together during his Twitch streams. And he's having a little bit of an issue. But, yeah. It's a big machine. It's pretty neat looking. Spiders is asking retraction settings for Duplicator i3 Plus. Basically, for a Mark 10 style extruder, you probably want maybe 2 millimeters max with a fairly fast pull. I can't recall what my speeds were, but basically, you can pull quite quickly because it's a direct drive, and you don't have to pull very far. What you might want to implement more is the Z hop or Z hop, where the extruder moves up out of the way. Depending on what software you're using, you can usually put that in. Slicer, Simplify 3D, they're all built in. It's called Z hop or Z height retraction. Anthony, what are my thoughts on the hang printer and its reliance? The hang printer is a freaking fantastic concept. You're going to get very little accuracy though, so that's probably why it's not really going to be used for very accurate parts, but for a concept it's pretty neat. Mr. B, my W, Brian. In your opinion, what is better than Monoprice i3 V2 or the new Maker Plus? In my opinion, they're both exactly the same machine, same mechanics, just different interface. The interface on the Plus is nicer, but I kind of like the lighter design of the V2, and a lot of people like that because you can actually enclose it for printing ABS. They're both much and muchness, really. It's just an updated version. Hobby Boy, what's my opinion on the janky looking heated beds from Alibaba? Looking at getting one for my Chongqing X1, and they're only 150mm heated beds on the internet. Is there only? Heard they warp. Yeah, look, you can get like a membrane style heater, but honestly, look, the Chongqing is made out of acrylic. Don't add a heated bed to it. The radiant heat will start destroying the machine. It's not designed for it. Like, I wouldn't trust most of those things because heat beds use a lot of current, and for a start, the power supply is not going to be strong enough. The electronics might not like it, and you're going to have to modify a lot of things. Alright, we're finally printing the lattice part on the on the Delta. Shane is asking, will Up ever open to other slicers? For those who don't know, Up are like the tier time 3D printers. So yeah, Shane, currently you can load custom G-code onto them, but it sucks. For example, you have to do an extrusion multiplier of like 15 or 20, so it's not coded properly. But there is pressure on them to do so. It's taken them like 6 years to do that, so give them another 6 years and they might open it further. G Gaming, should I get the Tivo with all the upgrades? Look, guys, you know my opinion on Tivo printers. Do what you want, but I believe there's better kits on the market. But if you love tinkering, then sure. Especially with all the upgrades, it gets quite expensive. Charlie, thanks for the $5. I've got a Cheaty Tech 1 and Simplified 3D for Slicer. Any recommendations? The Cheaty Tech 1, I believe, is the MakerBot Replicator 2X style one, I believe. Just find like a Wanhao, not Wanhao, a FlashForge Creator Pro profile or something like that, or even just the MakerBot Replicator 2X profile. And go from there, basically. It'll be very similar. But yeah, heated bed, Mark 10 style extruders, you should be off to a pretty good start, then only need minor tuning from there. Just make sure the bed volume is correct. I'm not sure if they've changed that. They did offer one for review, but I don't have space for another one of that design. Luke, can I do a guide review on flashing firmware to the Cocoon Create Touch? I'll be completely honest, I'm not 100% cluey on how to flash to the Wanhaos. It used to be quite difficult. I haven't kept up on how easy it is now. I've never changed the firmware in any of my Wanhao i3s. So, yeah, check out the Facebook group to see what people are doing. But if I am planning to upgrade my original Cocoon Create, which is the i3 version 2, and in that upgrade process, I'm going to call it Pimp My Printer. I've got all these awesome upgrade parts. I may change the firmware, and if I do, you can look out for it in that video. I've seen PEI or Captain. Captain sucks. It's too fragile. Go with PEI. Even though it's kind of the same thing, sort of. Thick Captain would be fine, but the tape is just too fragile. Stuart, thanks for $5. Have I ever tried putting the R2-D2 on Thingiverse? There's actually a couple of R2-D2s on there. You're having trouble to find detail. Any tips? Print if it's correct in what I'm thinking, like thin panels with detail. Print slowly, because if you print too fast, you'll get artifacts from the print wobbling. And make sure you allow for support material if it needs it. But yes, print slower, I would say, if you're having issues with detail. Fine detail can be resolved with a lack of speed. If you print too fast, you're going to end up with areas that melt too quickly and you get drooping and all sorts of nastiness. Thanks for the $2, Shane, I appreciate it. Okay, let's double check these prints. Right, well that's already looking way better. I did change the firmware to the latest version. As I said at the start of this stream, on the Flux Studio, the latest version of Flux Studio, it's like a beta. I couldn't get the machine to connect. So this is running, where does it say? Cancel. This is running 0.7.6, and it seems to be working quite well now. I've changed my temperatures down a bit. And the Raise Cube R3 clearly has a cooling issue. So that machine will be reviewed soon. And to clarify things, guys, when I do reviews as if I am like a new user to 3D printing, not as someone who has experience in terms of making things work beyond what the manufacturer's given me. So this will be reviewed with the stock cooler, because it's how it's been provided. Sure, you can improve it, and I absolutely will, but the review will be basically off the stock cooler, the prints need improvement. And it's because if I start making modifications, where do you stop? Like, I could completely rebuild something and be like, yeah, print's great, but I've spent $1,000 on it. and 2 weeks changing it. So I need to draw the line in terms of reviews because I need to get them out of the way and I need to get them done. And if I don't draw the line somewhere in the sand, it's just never going to end. Okay, back to questions. Phil is asking about Hatchbox. Being Australian, we don't actually get Hatchbox, but apparently it's not too bad. That's something you'd want to ask one of the American dudes. Ooble Dooble. That's a great name. What do I think of the new Monoprice Delta printer? I did chat to the Monoprice guys at Bay Area Maker Faire. I think it looks absolutely adorable. It was printing. They were had it running at the show. And from what I understand, they used Indiegogo just to get a gauge of how many people wanted to buy it, not so much to crowdfund a printer. So it already exists. It'll be for sale very shortly. And I wouldn't mind testing one. I think it's cute. But it is a very small Delta, so you're not going to print large things on it. Angus just wanted to say a general thank you for watching your channel for a couple of years. Has eventually led me to buying the recent Cocoon Create Touch. Cool stuff. Well done, Liam. I'm glad you managed to get one. That's awesome to hear. They sold out so fast. Yeah, Shivel's right. Never stop modifying. You literally never stop, which is why I need to draw the line as to where I actually make a video. Otherwise, I'll never have time. Stupid freaking buttons. Thank you so much for the $10. It was good meeting you at the Matter Hackers event before Bay Area Maker Faire. Fun talking to you on the Matter Hackers live stream and afterwards. The Matter Hackers event was absolutely insane. They put on such a good show. I had so much fun catching up with Joel and all the other guys there, especially with the dual 100k subscriber thing. That was just awesome. That was so much fun. Randall, thanks for $5. I missed meeting you at National Manufacturing Week. Did you get to check in Teleparticle there for possible heated bed solution? No, I didn't. I didn't get to see all of the show, unfortunately. I didn't see them. I did talk to a plastics manufacturer and supplier about adhesive PEI sheets, but yeah, apart from that, no, I didn't, unfortunately. Figulous, Angus, how often do you check the emails you get over at the contact section on the website? I'll be completely honest, guys. I can no longer accept questions on a general nature through that page. I don't have time to answer them. I can't provide printer support or recommendations anymore. So it's purely for business contacts now, and that's why I'm here trying to help as many people as I can, because I'm only one guy and literally have no more time for anything anymore. Unfortunately, I do apologize. I wish I could help further. It's nuts. Sorry, Shivel's saying, I'm watching the stream on my new 55-inch TV on my desk. Your hair is super crazy on such a large screen. Yeah, my hair is nuts. I really need a haircut, but also I kind of don't want one. Luke, on the topic of the Cocoon Create Touch selling out so quickly, in Horsham there was 2 printers and probably about 10 people wanting them. That's nuts. Yeah. So a lot of people are like, oh, why did Aldi get so little printers? Look, the reason they do it is a loss leader. I don't think they make any money off a $499 printer when it should be around $750. So what I think they do is they do it to get people into the stores and they sell out instantly. And sure, those people probably don't buy anything, but people probably come in thinking, oh, let's look at the printer. It's not there. Oh, let's just buy some potatoes. I think that's how Aldi rolls. I think they try to get people in with these sort of promotions. And from what I understand, Win Plus, the company behind bringing the Cocoon Creates into Australia under that brand, are not allowed to sell the machines beyond what Aldi does. They can sell filament, but they're not allowed to sell them on their own, which sucks. So it's a yearly phenomenon we're getting in Australia. It's pretty cool that it happens, but I wish there was more, because it basically every time it happens, we get a new segment of the community with printers who couldn't afford them previously, which is awesome, and that's really good to see. Game Corp, any tips? Alright, so Game Corp, thank you so much for the Wanhao plates. They will definitely be used shortly in my upgrade videos. But any tips for printing large, complex, dimensional, critical things on an i3? Well then, yeah, it's not really the right machine to be doing those sort of things. The problem with an i3 is you're always fighting dimensional accuracy as you get higher up the printer, because that gantry, the further up, any deviation becomes amplified. I like gesturing with my hands. So what I would do is improve it with stiffening rods, so that the whole thing's triangulated, it's strengthened. You may need to reinforce that print bed because the springs they use are often quite soft and they might add more vibrations in. But you'll pretty much have to cut your speeds in half, I would say, to get more accuracy. Once you do that, you're probably pretty good. I would say if you're doing that, you've reinforced the frame, you're probably okay, but it'll take a long time because you're going to be printing quite slowly. I find if you print too fast with large objects, the inertia becomes so large that the top of the parts just, the quality goes out the window. Skimo is saying the same company that makes the Cocoon Crate also sells the Balco through Kogan. I don't know if they're still selling it. I believe the Balco is finally discontinued. And Lady Muse is back from her intergalactic trip. Welcome, Lady Muse, into the chat. Travis, how well and easily do the ultra cheap Prusa i3 clones on eBay GearBest work? Do they need a ton of tweaking? Yes, they need a ton of tweaking, basically. Which is fine if it's a hobby, but if you're trying to buy a printer to print things that work all the time, you're not going to have the best experience. Basically, kits, ready to run, work out of the box in 15 minutes. Kits, you could spend anything from a weekend through to months making them work. It's a gamble. It really depends on what you get and what time of day it was in the factory, actually, because sometimes they'll be like, we'll throw in rollers that bind up, or we'll throw in an extruder block that leaks plastic. Or, you know, we'll actually give you a proper genuine part, or we'll actually give you a counterfeit part. It really, really is a roll of the dice. 100% in terms of what you get in terms of cheap kits. Do I trust 3D printers, Bay? I've never ever heard of them. I purchased my first ever Wanhao through, what was it called? 3dprintersonlinestore.com, which sounds really dodgy. But what I think they do is they just go straight to the manufacturers. So I bought my original Wanhao i3 through that, and it just sort of shipped straight from Wanhao. So I can vouch for them in terms of buying a Wanhao at least, but not for anyone else. I haven't used 3D Printers Bay before. A lot of people are asking about the Obsidian. I tackled it at the start of the stream, but basically I will be reviewing one, but also keep an eye out for many other Kickstarter campaigns on 3D printers. There's going to be a lot coming. Okay. So far the Flux is working quite well, which is good. Shivel's saying, when I got my 3D printed kit, I built some of it and went to bed because I had to woke up next morning, and my housemate had built it. I was not happy. That's hilarious. Normally people would be happy with that, but I guess you wanted the experience. Oh, you could tear it down and build it again. That's pretty funny. Yeah, Mad Rush is saying the Delta from JCar took me a week to get together. Is that the Arduino Delta? Because I remember going into JCar and I torsioned the whole frame around and the whole thing was floppy. They didn't like me doing that. JCar doesn't really acknowledge my existence, which is funny because they're like one of the biggest retail store 3D printer sellers in Australia. Maybe because I've done things before in their stores. I did review some of their filament once, but it's just overpriced. It's too expensive. John is saying, true comments on kits, however, the Prusa i3 Mark IIs is utterly fantastic. Yes, definitely, although I will say again, the popularity of the Wanhao, the popularity of the Prusa i3 has meant that their print quality in some cases has been better than others. And also, I remember I talked to Prusa, Joseph Prusa at Bay Area Maker Faire, and he actually uses some injection molded parts now just because they couldn't get the throughput of 3D printed parts. They didn't want to, they just had to do it. It actually cost them more money. But yeah, because it's so popular now with like a 7-week lead time, you may get parts that aren't as good as the original batches. I don't know. I'm sure now they've scaled up to a new factory, everything's perfect. But there was a few sketchy times when they were way beyond capacity. Shivel. JCar is a terrible company. They don't deserve business from anyone. I just love how I go in and they have no idea what I want. Like, they don't know what I'm talking about half the time. I have to literally, like, point behind the counter to, like, that. Or find it in the catalogue and then they spend hours looking for it. I don't know. I buy all my electronics from Element 14 now. And that's totally not a shout out. They're really expensive. But at least I get them next day and they have everything I want. Jefflugum is asking auto bed leveling question. I have a custom built Prusa i3 Mark IIs clone. It seems to lose its Z height level when turned off. How do I fix it? It shouldn't be losing its level because it should be recalibrating every time you print. That's the point of a auto bed level. If you mean it's just one side screw that's like dropping, it might mean that you've got, I guess, even too little friction on that side, because your Z-axis rod shouldn't be moving independently when the power's off. But maybe you want to oil up the other side so they're both uniformly put under weight. I know what you mean. I think you mean this. It's skewing. I don't know if I have a fix for it though, because when you power them off, the motors lose torque, obviously. But in terms of the bed leveling, that should be every time it prints. It should, do the bed level sequence. I do that with my Prusa i3. I've had to change the Z offset a little bit over time. I probably need to change the induction sensor as to where that is, but it's only been minor, like maybe .05 millimeters or so deviation. I think it's probably a temperature thing. Mod Shop, thanks for the $2. What is that behind me? Okay, guys, so going back to the printers behind me, if you've just tuned in, this is the RaiseCube R3. It's very similar to the ANET A8 in terms of it's an acrylic i3 kit that I put together from scratch. And it's printing currently a lattice cube style torch test. The cooling on it's not very good. I will definitely be commenting on that in the review. And over here we have the Flux Delta Plus, which is been upgraded in terms of firmware, and I'm printing Polyalchemy Elixir on it, and it seems to be printing quite well, actually. The cooling could be better, but yeah, the cooling could be better. It's still a bit droopy, but it is working better. So I have been when I reviewed that machine, it wasn't that great in terms of impressing me. Al Jolly, thanks for the $5. The Lulzbot Mini or the original Prusa i3 Mark II as a second printer. I will be reviewing the Lulzbot Mini soon. It depends what I would actually say it depends what your filament ecosystem is. Do you prefer 1.75 or 3? Or 2.85 rather? Because I mostly use 1.75, therefore I would normally say the Prusa i3, but I am testing the Lulzbot, which has 2.85. So you generally want to keep printers in the same vein so you don't have multiple types of filament. But if your previous printer is a 2.85, then Lulzbot's probably a good way to go. The Mini is very nice. I'm really, really keen to test it out. And I do like their open source ecosystem. What have I missed? Someone's talking about Delrin and POM, which is definitely very toxic. Delrin is always toxic, depending if you burn it or not. Dude Sun 53, do I print parts for bots? Absolutely I do. I print a lot of parts for motor mounts, wire holders, and sensor holders. I need to print more, but yeah, now I've got printers that can print stuff that's stronger than PLA. Absolutely, I do need to print more. Vinny Van Gogh is Angus. You know why Hobby King and other AU sellers are out of stock on most color options with Kaleido as well. Luckily I found 3D Phillies. Have I done a review? No, I haven't reviewed 3D Phillies, but a lot of you guys like it, so it is what it is. I actually don't review just PLA and ABS filaments anymore because there's just so many on the market, and it is just filament. It's nothing. You're not going to go wrong really these days with a PLA or ABS unless it's super crap and super cheap. 3D Phillies has a good rep. Hobby King's out of stock because they're cheap. Basically, as soon as the shipment comes in, everyone buys it, including people who then resell it. I know that because it's what we used to do in Perth. Because we could get eSun from Hobby King cheaper than we could get it directly from eSun in China. The price they would give us in China was higher, plus shipping as well, than Hobby King was actually selling it direct to consumers in Australia. So we would actually buy it and sell it in the shop. I know, dodgy, but that's Hobby King somehow skirts around all the taxes and things. I don't know how they do it. Right, well, it looks like the Raise Cube is currently failing horribly. I think it's just starting to catch on the edges of those those little columns. So you may see it fail horribly in a minute. Someone keeps asking, will I ever go to Virginia? No plans. Not currently. V Horus, what's the coolest filament you could get, like a magnetic or conductive? Both of those are kind of gimmicky in my opinion. I wouldn't print conductive or magnetic normally. The really cool ones now are the fiber-filled like nylons, like the carbon fiber nylons, which are almost impossible to print with, but I'm definitely keen to try those. I know Matter Hackers has one, Rigid Ink has another variation. In terms of making stuff that's indestructible, that's probably the way to go. In terms of people asking for printer recommendations, I'm not going to give you an answer. Sorry, that's why I make videos and reviews. You can make your own choice. And Earl, no, I haven't looked at the D7 yet. I have a few resin printers to test, but I'm holding off because they tend to stink and I want to do them all at once. So I'm not sure. Some resins are stronger smelling than others, but with the PO Poly, the Moai from PO Poly, that resin was quite strong in terms of its odor. And we have an inspection on Monday, so I don't really want them coming into the smell of toxic fumes. To be honest, it's going to be interesting to see what they think of all this. Rusty Tux, Angus Ward calls PLA to curl out of the nozzle. If you mean it's curling off to one side instantly, that's probably a semi-clog. You've probably got a nozzle that's partly clogged. So I would get a drill bit or a acupuncture needle, something very fine to clean it out. It sounds like you've got a little bit of dirt in there. It may also be one-sided cooling, is cooling one side quicker than the other. But if it's curling and sticking to the nozzle, that's usually a partial clog. You might need to clean out your nozzle. Right. Thanks, man, for the thanks, Angus, for the vote on the tricopter polymaker competition. No worries, man. That was really funny, actually. I thought that was the coolest thing in the lineup, and then it turns out it was you. I hope they sent you some awesome filaments. So yeah, it sounds like the Raise Cube is failing horribly, as you can probably hear. The problem with those cooling ducts is they're really close to the nozzle as well. So anything that curls up, it just jams. So I'm gonna have to stop that now. Fantastic. 1 second. Right, well that print looks terrible. Utterly awful. It looks like it didn't adhere completely. Again, I moved the machine. It was leveled properly before, but since moving it, I might have unleveled it. But even the side that did stick, it's not looking very good either. So, I think I'm going to print something bigger on it and then call it for that one till I actually make some modifications to it. But yeah, I think these manufacturers don't exactly test their kits these days, they just ship them. Who just said the D7 resin smells like roasted coconut? I don't believe you at all. Stuart Smith, PETG Surface, Painter's Tape, or Build Tack. I don't know people who really run PETG as a print surface. Painter's Tape sucks. That's what's on the R3 at the moment. I'm going to get rid of that after this stream. But Build Tack's really nice. I met the guys at Build Tack, guys and girls at Bay Area Maker Faire. And and their stuff's pretty good. It's pretty decent. Okay, so it looks like despite its rough beginnings at the start of the stream, the Flux Delta Plus is actually going quite well. So I'm looking forward to doing the part 2 review of the Delta Plus soon. We're testing other tool heads out as well, and it actually looks like it's working quite well. The Raise Cube R3, on the other hand, continues to disappoint me, and I will see what I can do about improving the cooling issue. But that review will probably be out in a week's time as well. I'm going to just go through a couple more questions, guys, and then finish up, because I haven't had any lunch yet. But it's been loads of fun answering your questions. I do love streaming with you guys. It's awesome. Cole, you don't have to keep pledging, man. Thank you. Could you set up a straw poll in one of your videos right now to see who has a 3D printer, how many, or are they looking to buy one at Lady Muse? I can't do anything like that. She might be able to. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, though. To see who has a 3D printer, how many... oh, I see what you mean. To see how many people are watching with printers. Yeah, I can do that, something like that for another stream. I can't do that right now, though. And yeah, that's another good point. For people asking about cheap printers, I have a whole video on cheap printers under $350 that I recommend, that I don't think suck. So please go watch that video. Because that will answer your questions. Paul, thank you. I wanted to make an aluminium intake manifold for a V8 hot rod. What are my options? Lost wax 3D printed. Jeez. I would be completely honest with you, man. I don't think 3D printing is a suitable technology for that. It sounds like you need to do some sort of sheet metal work. Because you could cast something using lost wax casting style with PLA, but 24 inches is, huge. And the cast part won't be as strong as a sheet metal part that's been folded and welded. I mean, there would definitely be shops that could do that sort of thing for you. But that sounds like an awesome build. Please let me know how you go. I would love to see that hot rod. Yeah, people keep asking about the ANET A8. Again, same with the CR10. There's so many good reviews on it. Go check out all the reviews of the ANET A8. I will not be reviewing it personally because there's nothing else I can add to the many, many reviews already out there. Yeah, but you do get what you pay for, and like TrueTech just said, they ripped me off for a missing part and expected me to pay extra for it. Yeah, as soon as you open the box, they apparently kind of claim that's voiding the warranty. So, yeah, I would film the unboxing to back you up. But again, buying from China, you get very little support. Okay, a couple more questions. Yeah, Alpha Plays saying again with the Tivo Tarantula having trouble getting replacement parts. Again, the manufacturers there are quite hard to get parts out of. Basically spam their Facebook group and see if you can get some response. Aussie Gamer saying Australian internet sucks. Absolutely it does. That's why we moved an hour and a half out of Sydney to get fibre to the premises, which is why I can stream at 1080p. It was very, very difficult to do. Right. Cool. I am going to finish up. Yeah. Alright guys, I'm going to finish up here. So thank you so much for watching. This has been a load of fun. Just to recap, the review part 2 of the Flux Delta Plus will be out probably in a week's time, and then another week or so after that, probably the review of the Raise Cube R3, after I figure out why it isn't printing well at all. But it may just because it's not a great kit. It's not a great kit. And basically, if you haven't subscribed to Makers Muse, I would love for you to, but you guys are probably all subscribed, and I really do appreciate it. And also a big shout out to my Patreons for helping support the channel and pay for the super fast internet that I'm able to use to upload and do these streams. So have a fantastic weekend, guys. I'm going to go make some lunch, and I look forward to seeing you again very shortly here on Makers Muse. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later. And the button.